These women had so much power and control, and for them how easy it is to give and take life away, and on that note really showcased how ruthless they really were, like Katherine de Medici. What does this painting and Katherine de Medici have in common? No, it's not her daughter pleading to her lover or her son, but the painting itself is called A Huguenot on St. Bartholomew's Day. When Katherine de Medici took on the reins and was one of the head household members, she reigned in power, but also with violence. She was ruthless and a violent ruler of the medieval Europe, as she was also an Italian noblewoman and the Queen of France from 1547 to 1559. Also known as the Black Widow, she is also heavily regarded as the mastermind behind the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, an organized violent Catholic mob directed against the Huguenots. In total, it has said to have over 30,000 Huguenots lost their lives of this vile escapade, and this painting depicts that incident. According to the order of the Duke of Guise, the Catholics were told to follow the prior of the massacre. When the clock of the Palais de Justice shall sound upon the great bell at daybreak, then each good Catholic must bind a strip of white linen around his arm and place a fair white cross on his cap. In the painting, it depicts a pair of young lovers and is given a dramatic twist because the woman, who is a Catholic, is attempting to get her beloved, who is a Protestant, to wear the white armband declaring allegiance to Catholicism. The young man firmly pulls off the armband at the same time that he gently embraces his lover and stares into her pleading eyes. The full name of this painting is actually called A Huguenot on St. Bartholomew's Day, refusing to shield himself from danger by wearing the Roman Catholic badge, painted by Sir John Everett Mialis. Known as Katherine the Great, she was the longest reigning empress of Russia. Katherine's greatest accomplishments include establishing educational reform, championing the arts, and extending Russia's borders in the largest territorial gain since Ivan the Terrible. Aside having many reasons to do what she did, especially with her husband, she took note of his behaviors and kept it till it was the right moment to act. Peter took lovers and flaunted them in front of his wife, as well as Katherine would counter by surrounding herself with very young, handsome officers that she was impressed by her sheer stamina. Wow. When Peter threatened the lives of Katherine's followers, they acted to overthrow him, and Katherine ordered her husband to just be imprisoned. Her marriage was loveless, and it was a partnership orchestrated for political reasons only. Katherine later claimed that Peter was impotent, and their child and apparent heir, Paul I, was actually the offspring of Saltykov. She was like that. She said, "I hate you, Peter, so much." Her next lover was plucked straight from the imperial court, Polish nobleman Poniatowski, and Katherine the Great of Russia was strong and effective ruler, but she was also ruthless in her pursuits of power. She then eventually had her husband Peter assassinated and made many enemies in her quest to expand Russia's territory. Although they were noted as the Queen Regent of Castile and United Spain, the atrocities they had inflicted onto the world have been noted as the expansion of the hands of so many deaths. Isabelle and Fernet issued the Alhambra Decree in 1492, which resulted in the expulsions of Jews from Spain. This policy, driven by religious and political motives, have been criticized for its impact on significant population. She also supported the establishment of the Spanish Inquisition in 1478, while initially intended to ensure the orthodoxy of converts from Judaism and Islam. It later expanded in scopes as the Inquisition was responsible for persecution, torment, and executions of individuals accused of heresy, as well as her support of Columbus, who we know led the discovery of eradicating the indigenous of America, and her desire to need to expand through the world is where it is today, and left a blood trail of civilizations and civilians that were already established before they got their colonial hands on. One Monday morning in September 2011, the Mexican Marines announced the arrest of a woman whose authorities claimed served the chief of a legal substance territory of San Nicolas de los Garza outside Monterrey. Officials had announced that the capture of the first known female boss of the Zetas illegal substance gang close to Monterrey, North Mexico. Maria Moreno Coreno is also known by her alias La Flaca. This development has potentially interesting implications for gender dynamics in Mexico's criminal underworld. Aside from working as illegal substance mules, women were actually generally perceived as targets for organized crime rather than the full-fledged participants, but this woman, like the Netflix show Griselda, was just as ambitious. Zetas actually may be particularly ambitious in recruiting other women into her little gang. While officials broke up Zeta's training camp last June in 2011, they were also very surprised to find that half of the trainees were females. And if this does not reflect the group's policy, this also indicates the two incidents prove the very least that gender roles are shifting in the illegal substance conflicts as they heat up. Bloody Mary, as she is noted, is actually acclaimed as a heroic underdog that became a monarch and then was known as a violent despot despite being no bolder than her father, King Henry VIII. Being the daughter of King Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon, she was turned from princess to lady and was separated from her mother when her father left her for Anne Boleyn. When Mary was able to ascend to the throne, it was during her 5-year reign that Mary navigated challenges as her status as the first English queen, and she, like Elizabeth, the first two who would reign after her, wanted to focus on wearing the crown to rule rather than just be a wife to a king. She prioritized religion above all else, implementing reforms and restrictions aimed at restoring the Catholic Church in England. It didn't work. Most controversially, she did order 280 Protestants to be burned at the stake as heretics, politics, a fact that would later cement her as a reputation of Bloody Mary. They would then go get this image of the monarch who is a raging madness of a queen and open tyranny, as she was stubborn, inflexible, and undoubtedly flawed, but she was also the product of her time, as incomprehensible to modern minds as our world would be to hers. And like all older sisters, she did pave a way to help her younger sister, as Elizabeth I would have been noted as the most powerful ruler England would ever see. Bonnie Parker was one half of the notorious criminal duo known as Bonnie and Clyde, and I may accidentally slip a southern accent. That's not my real accent, I just can't help it. Alongside Clyde Barrow, Bonnie Parker gained notoriety during the Great Depression for a series of bank robberies and criminal activities in the early 1930s. Bonnie Elizabeth Parker was born on October 1st, 1910 in Roanoke, Texas. Did I say that right, Texas people? No? It's okay. She grew up in a working class family and despite her small stature, developed a love for poetry and drama, which kind of makes sense with the whole ending of her affair. Bonnie then met Clyde in January 1930, and Clyde already had a seasoned criminal record and was serving time in the Edmonds Prisons Farm in Texas. A mutual acquaintance smuggled a weapon to Clyde and then he used it to escape. Then Bonnie and Clyde embarked a criminal spree that included bank robberies, blur of burglaries, and car thefts. Bonnie and Clyde's criminal spree did come to a violent end on May 23, 1934 when a law enforcement officer ambushed their car near this parish in Louisiana, and the officers fired a barrage of bullets, killing Bonnie and Clyde instantly. The story of Bonnie and Clyde has become part of American folklore, which of course, as we know, Bonnie, loving drama, would really like, and their criminal exploits romanticized in media has been subject of numerous books, films, and songs. In the 1967 film Bonnie and Clyde starring Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway further cemented their status as infamous figures and lovers. Daria Nikolaevna Saltykova, also known as the Saltychika, was a Russian noblewoman who gained infamy for her cruel treatment and killings of serfs during the 18th century. She became a widow at the age of 25 after her husband's death in 1955. She was also known to inherit significant amount of wealth and several estates, as she was also known for her extreme cruelty and sadistic treatment of the serfs who worked on her estates. It's also said in 1968 Daria Saltykova was arrested and brought to trial after lots of complaints of her acts towards her servants. An investigation revealed horrifying details of her crime, including beatings, mutilations, and killings of the serfs. In 1968 she was sentenced to life imprisonment and perpetual penitence in a convent. Daria then died in 1801 while still in confinement. In total, she ended up killing up to 140 people. Born Myra Maybelle Shirley, Belle Starr was a notorious figure associated with the American Wild West during the 19th century. She became known as the Bandit Queen, gained notoriety with her associations with various outlaws and her involvement in criminal activities. Belle married several times, with her most famous being married to the outlaw Cole Younger and a former member of the James Younger gang. After Younger, she married Sam Starr, a Cherokee outlaw, which contributed to her connections with the Indian Territory, also known as Oklahoma. Belle Starr was also known to associates like Jesse James and the Younger brothers and the infamous Dalton gang. She had a lot of connections, and to these outlaws and her involvements in horse theft and other illegal activities contributed to her reputation, but it did give her a nice resume. Belle Starr was arrested several times for various offenses, including the horse theft, but then she eventually avoided lengthy imprisonment time and her criminal records. Although they were still continuing, she was able to avoid it all. However, it did come to a violent end when she was shot and killed on February 3rd, 1889 while riding a horse home, as what else would she be riding on? But she was riding a horse home from a neighbor's house. That's how she died. Nobody knows, however, who killed her, so the circumstances of her death actually still remains anonymous and mysterious. Her life does become the exploits of Wild West folklore, and over the years she's been portrayed in various books, films, TV shows, contributing to her enduring legacy. Bathory. Alright, so Queen Bathory is also another person on this list who is also known for drinking the blood of the youth of her servants. However, it's been actually debated whether or not she has, whether or not people were actually jealous of her, but in the end, when it comes to Queen Bathory, she has been noted as one of the evil queen. She had once ruled Madagascar, and no doubt she was as fierce as she would have done anything for her kingdom. Queen Ranan was the first rule after her husband, King Radama, after he had died. During her reign, she also actually got her uncle executed to protect her power, and some records state that she actually ended her mother's life by subjugating her to extreme hunger. During her 33 years on the throne, she isolated the island and ceased much of its trade and goodwill exchanges with the African people to the west, and also with her critics she forced them to eat their own vomit after they would be poisoned and vomited and eat it back up. And if they did survive the ingestion, that would mean that they were loyal to her somehow, and if they died, it proved that they weren't loyal somehow. During her reign, Madagascar's population actually got cut in half, and it took the island nations decades to recover what was lost under her rule. And then, speaking of the current times, that's all for today. This is my last time hosting, and I want to say thank you so much, you guys, for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. My name is Jess, and I will always wish you the best. Good night and goodbye.